Hello, it is Thursday the 20th of January. I'm Connor Hamilton and this is the Seasiders Podcast Thursday night preview show. In today's show, we are previewing Blackpool's game against Millwall at Bloomfield Road on Saturday. As ever, we're joined by delightful guests from the opposition corner to help us look forward to the match. This week, we have the pleasure of being joined by Kai from That Millwall podcast. Hello, Kai.
Hello, mate. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to talking about a game on the weekend.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. And we're also joined by Sean and Joe to give the usual perspective on all things Tangerine. Welcome, Sean.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
And welcome, Joe, who made it just in time.
Hello. Yes, a few technical issues, but everything's looking ship-shape now, so let's crack on.
Excellente. Now, as always, if you're a long-time listener, you'll know the format of the pod. We start with some questions for our wonderful, knowledgeable guests, and then we visit nostalgia lane and day played for both and looking back on past matches. Kyle then leave us, and me, Joe, and Sean will do our usual bickering about who does and doesn't make the squad. So, welcome again, Kai. Just to kick us off, could you give us an overview of That Millwall podcast and how long you've been involved?
So I've been involved with That Millwall podcast about a year now. Mickey and Omar are the ones that started it. I don't know where they are, but that's for another time. No, they started it. So basically, it was all their hard work. They sort of probably kicked it off about 2.5 years ago. Mickey's ex-founder of the board at Millwall. So he sort of started it off through there. He wanted to talk about Millwall. So did Omar. They sort of started a podcast. I used to do a YouTube channel myself, so I joined them for about a year ago now. So we just talk really all things Millwall. There's a podcast that goes out on YouTube. Mickey loves all the TikTok stuff as well, so he's trying to grow the brand. And that is pretty much That Millwall podcast.
Excellent. I'll have to check out the TikTok stuff as well. As far as I'm aware, there is not a Seasiders Pod presence on TikTok. And I think it'll be quite funny to make John, who runs the main show, try. I think of, John Aspinall TikTok machine. We'll see if we can get it going. But turning to the football, you're sitting 13th in the table at the moment on 33 points, which is about the same as us. Kind of, how are you feeling around the season for Millwall so far?
It's been a pretty average season in the way that we haven't been able to be we haven't been consistent enough. Feels like last couple of weeks at least we've been winning then losing, winning then losing, and then sort of last week or two we've obviously played Palace in the cup. That's a bit of an anomaly in that way, but we've lost. We lost the other day against Forest. We lost against Bristol City. So in that way, it's been frustrating because there's games we probably should have won. That Bristol City game was one we should have definitely won. We were 2-1 up, cruising. I'm not quite sure what happened. I think it might have been the last 15 minutes. We did suffer with a bit of COVID over Christmas. We didn't play. So, but like all teams did, they all suffered, and injuries have played a big part. But overall, it's been, we can't really complain too much because, our budget is about lower mid-table, and we are probably punching above our weight right now. Hopefully, we can bring a few players in and push our way to the playoffs.
Yeah, you were saying there about bringing players in. I know before the podcast you're saying you normally leave it late. Obviously, a player that you did bring in the summer was Dan Ballard, who we obviously had on loan in League One. I think he's out at the weekend. But what have you made of him so far? And just generally, what are you expecting towards the end of the window now with Millwall?
Dan Ballard's was fantastic before he got injured. It was a bit of a weird knock because we didn't really notice him sort of go down. I think he might play through the pain, and then they've realised the extent of the injury after. He's been out for, I think he got injured end of November, so I think he's back during training early Feb, so he's nearly back. He'll be a massive boost because he's just overall presence there. His height, his ball playing, his passing, his long diagonal passing is just probably one of the best centre backs we've had in that sort of bringing the ball out from the back. So I've been really impressed with him. And as for late transfer window, just want a couple of strikers and an attacking midfielder. Tom Bradshaw getting injured the other day is a massive blow. He was like 7 and 8 or something. Shay Ojo's out as well. So 2 long-term injuries, 2 of our main attacking players it's hard to take. I mean, we might even see a 15-year-old Zach Lovelace play on Saturday, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's a shame you've not got a team full of 15-year-olds, make the job a bit easy for us. But generally, in terms of style of play and stuff, what are we expecting? Obviously, the first game of the season was a bit skewed, I guess, with our early red card. I thought we actually performed really well in that game and did well to stay in it for a long spell, and obviously lost to that late winner. So, what are you, in terms of your style of play and things like that? What should we expect from Millwall?
I was really impressed with Blackpool actually start of the season. Went down to 10 men, and sometimes Millwall don't play as well when the other teams go down to 10 men. And I thought Blackpool made it really difficult for us. They sort of sat in and took their chance when it came. And it was only for a bit of Jed Wallace magic, which is basically what normally gets us out of a lot of rubbish. Jed Wallace sort of pops up with a goal. Obviously, no Jed Wallace on Saturday. But yeah, as for our style of play, it's quite Gary Rowett notoriously plays a 5 at the back. He likes to sit in. And then when we go forward, he likes to go forward with pace, but he's being, it can be quite boring to watch sometimes, I'll admit. Millwall, we can be quite boring. Was last season, we couldn't really complain. It was quite effective. This year, it's not been that effective, and it's been pretty boring as well. So it's not been the most exciting football to watch.
Yeah. And you mentioned there playing 5 at the back. You'll be pleased to know that one of my pet theories, at least, is that Blackpool struggle playing at 5 at the back, 3 at the back systems. We just don't seem to have any idea kind of how to press, how to deal with that, etc. Do you feel it's kind of been an effective shape for you this season, or would you prefer to kind of see a switch to something else?
I think there's been a lot of chat in the fan base about how we can try and, change the formation. I mean, when Gary first came in, played 5 at the back, and it worked wonders. We were brilliant. We couldn't win away at home under Neil Harris. And then Rowett comes in, we were brilliant away, and that 5 at the back really helped us. But I think his problem is he started to go 5 at the back at home, and at least for the last season or so, he's gone 5 at the back at home, and that's what sort of annoyed fans a little bit, because when you're at home, you really should attack the opposition. And I mean, it's difficult to tell, because against like a team like who do we play? I think it was Reading back in September now. Actually, we played a 5 at the back 4 at the back to start with, 2 strikers, and fans were really excited to see that. I think it was Matt Smith and Ben Kofobi up top. Fans were really excited to see balls get whipped in the box, kind of like the old traditional Millwall way, 4-4-2, and it was even worse. So second half, he switches it up, goes back to a 5. And I've never seen football like it. So I think it depends how you play it. If you play the 5 at the back correctly, it works and it can be exciting. I mean, you see under West Brom play 5 at the back, and they do play good football. So it depends how you play it. If you sit in and you look to counter, then 5 at the back is boring. But if you don't sit in and you use the width down with Scott Malone and Danny McNamara, who are very, very capable of getting down the wings, if you use them effectively, it can be quite a overload on the wings.
What's your opinion on Gary Rowett, and what's the general feeling of the fans at the Den on Rowett? Are they pro him, or do they want a more progressive type manager? Because obviously Blackpool have got this new up and coming manager, Neil Critchley. Would you say that Gary Rowett's of that style, or is he a different type of manager?
I think he's a different type. I think Rowett is a real because he's a defender himself. I think that comes across in his play. I think he did really well at Millwall. First of all, he sort of stable. He steadied the ship a little bit, and he kept us from going down, and we nearly even went up that year. And he calls it a 3-year plan, what he's part of. And if you look at his record, he doesn't tend to stay at clubs much longer than 3 years. We're in the 3rd season now, so I think we probably could expect Rowett to go maybe at the end of the season or halfway. He doesn't very often stay longer than that. So the feeling between the fan base is, I think it's a bit half and half. I sit on the fence with it. Some games Rowett does you can see he does things right, and then other games his substitutions are baffling sometimes. So I think it's sort of a split opinion between the fan base. Some want him maybe a more attacking, younger manager. And some people are like, well, Rowett's doing a good job. We're staying up and are happy with that. So, yeah, it's definitely a mixed opinion.
Yeah, and moving on to players now. Obviously, you've mentioned about sort of the key injuries that you've got. Jed Wallace is obviously one of those players that's injured for the game. We're sort of well-versed with our players trying to be stolen by Nottingham Forest. Obviously, you're in the same boat. So do you expect him to stay? beyond January, and sort of what are your expectations when it comes to the sort of price range you'd like to see Forest pay? I know obviously you mentioned pre-pod that he's got 6 months left on his deal. Have you not got an option or anything on that?
No, I don't expect him to sign a new deal. I think there's rumours that he's rejected 2 contract offers from Millwall, which is a bit gutting because obviously Jed does keep us ticking quite often. And so when we played with Den, Jed Wallace, it comes up with a moment of magic just to get us back into the game, and he livens the game up a little bit. So if we lose him, I'll be gutted to see him go. He has gone down as a really good player for Millwall. And we're having this debate on the podcast the other day whether he is a Millwall legend or not. Mickey and Omar don't think he is, but as a younger generation, I think Jed Wallace is close to a Millwall legend, if not one. But as for price range, I think Forest offered 1.5. I think it was their second one or third one of the two. I'd like to see maybe 2.5, 3 million for Jed. I think a couple of seasons ago, Villa were quoted to offer 15 or something for Jed, and we turned it down. So, that showed you what Jed was, valued when he had good length of contract left. Obviously, with 6 months left in your deal, you can't be you can't be greedy because obviously you're not going to sell him otherwise, and he'll go for free. So it's a balancing act. You want to let him go for free at the end of the season, but if we did make the playoffs as a miracle happened, make the playoffs and we go up, Jed Wallace will no doubt sign a new deal with us. So it's whether it's worth the gamble or not.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Obviously, you're quoting the prices there. I think the price range in the Championship is one is up here, one's down here. It's very hit and miss when it comes to quotes for players. Obviously, Brennan Johnson's being linked with Brentford for about 15, 18 million. What sort of market do you see Millwall shopping in? Say they did go and sell Jed Wallace for 2 million. What sort of types of players would you be looking for? What sort of prices would you tend to play for players? Because obviously we're getting a grasp of getting back in the Championship, and we've paid about 400 grand for Jake Beasley from Rochdale. These sort of fees, they're sort of the fees that we're willing to dish out. So where are Millwall sort of on the price range?
I'd say we're quite low spenders because our record deal I think was Leonard 1.25 for a club that's been in the Championship for. I know we went down to League One for a couple of seasons in about 2013 to about 2015, but for the last sort of 12, 13 years we've been. I think it's 9 or 10 of the seasons we've been in the Championship. So for a club that's been in the Championship out of them many years, I think 1.25 million is quite a low. It's not going to get you to the playoffs as such, is it? So we do need to be spending more. The market that I think Millwall are going to go in is the foreign market. The players we've been linked with Pape, Habib Gay from Belgium, Fortuna Sittard, Cian Fleming. Yesterday we were linked with Bart Ramselaar from I think it's FC Utrecht. So the players that we're being linked with are really exciting, but it's no good if we can't, because you can bid on anyone. You could bid on Kylian Mbappe, but you're not going to get him, are you? So we need to be realistic with who we're going to get, and we need to be, if they are worth 3 million and we're only offering 1.5, either go in for him, don't go 1.8 and try and get it up and waste time. Either go in for him and get him, or go for someone else. You know what I mean? Don't waste time, because we've only got 10 days left and we still want 3 players. I mean, I haven't got time here, so that's what we've got to do.
I mean, we can certainly relate on kind of being in the lower price range. We're trying to sign a midfielder from Oxford at the moment, and we seem incapable of offering more than a kind of 6-figure bid. It's like at the old NatWest, we've got a payment limit that won't accept anything that's kind of 7 figures if we try and send the money over. We're probably not as continental in our aspirations as you. Our transfer policy has been uncovering hidden gems from the lower leagues. Ben Mansford touring the country and sleeping in a tangerine camper van, going around League One, League Two ground, see if they have any spare players who might be good. And we do feel like, sometimes, is it ever going to be possible to compete like that? Particularly to replace a player like Jed Wallace. He isn't the only player missing, however. Tom Bradshaw is one of the best strikers in the Championship, best forwards in the Championship this season. He's out with a recent injury. You mentioned earlier that Shea Joe, the kind of loanee from Liverpool, whose name I've probably butchered, is out. How much will those players be missed by this Millwall side, and how do you expect the kind of Millwall side to adapt as a result?
I was hoping I was going to come on this podcast. We might have signed 2 strikers by now, because of that hasn't happened. So unless we do something early tomorrow morning, they're not going to be able to play. Saturday. I mean, Rowett was keen apparently to get a striker in before Saturday, but I don't think it's going to happen now. So Benik Afobe will probably play out there. Tom Bradshaw and Shea Ojo are massive misses. It's such a shame to see them out. I mean, Bradshaw's 7 and 8, one of his best scoring records. He just signed a new deal and he gets injured the next game. It was either he was going to go on a goal drought or he was going to get injured. That you knew it was going to happen. One of the two. It's sort of the Millwall way. That sort of there's a Millwall way on. You see on Twitter, it's Millwall way. That's what tends to happen. Ojo came to us in late August. I think it was deadline day, and started off quite slow. Picked up a little injury. And then came back and just started off slow, but he's really built up. And I'd say against Forest, he was playing some of the best football I've seen Ojo play at Millwall. And Benik Afobe, Tom Bradshaw, and Ojo were really linking up really nicely. Bradshaw and Afobe had scored, I think it was a goal each in the last 12 matches or something like that. Between them, they'd scored in the last 12 matches, so they were really hitting a nice partnership. So it's a bit gutting to see Bradshaw out, but yeah. You never know who's going to start, lead the line with Benik on Saturday. I'm hoping a youngster like Zach Lovelace, one of the 15-year-olds that we brought through when I think it was COVID a couple of weeks ago. We had COVID and we had to sort of play with sort of half a squad. The EFL made us play, and we saw Zach Lovelace. In fact, Millwall had to ask for his permission from school, and school and his parents to play. He had his own changing room, and he couldn't he couldn't stay in the hotel. So, yeah, it'd be nice to see him play tomorrow. He's a real talent and one of them players that you can just see getting nabbed from another club if you don't, tie him down soon. So, yeah, I'm excited for Saturday. But, yeah, I hope to see us adapt well without Bradshaw and Ojo.
I would love for there to be like a fly-on-the-wall documentary to kind of capture like these 15-year-old, kind of players making their professional debuts, because it's like there's obviously a lot of football documentaries out there. I imagine that's such a unique experience. You talked about needing to sign 2 strikers. Just want to make, in case any of the Millwall hierarchy are listening, we do have a striker that we would pay you to take, former Man City Academy graduate, name of Joe Nuttall. Please, have a look. And if you'd like him, take him off our books.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think they will, because we've just got rid of someone we wanted to get rid of for years, John Daddy Bovar. So we would have paid you to take him. So he's just gone to Bolton today on a free transfer. So thank God for that, because he was on one of the biggest wages in the club and he was doing absolutely nothing. He wasn't even playing. So that was good. So it seems like we're in quite similar boats with that. And you mentioned Cameron Brannigan before. We had a bid projected for him last year, didn't we?
Wow. There we go. Seems that we should just pool our resources, get a common transfer team going or something. And I'll put sure I write Bolton down on my list of clubs that are mugs to see if they'll express any interest. Joking aside, obviously we've got a competitive game on Saturday. You touched on the kind of last fixture last time when you got that 2-1 win with Jed Wallace special, I think, in the closing minutes. How do you think this match is going to play out? What are your score and match predictions?
If I was going to go for a prediction, I'm being really optimistic here, because I don't think we're going to get anything out of the game. But I'm going to be really optimistic. I'm going to go for 1-0 Millwall, and I go for Benik to get the goal. I think it'll be quite a tight game. I think both teams are on we've both been on a little bit of a poor run recently, haven't we? So I think both teams are going to be looking to probably just, keep the game tight for as long as possible and see if they can nick one. I think the first goal will be crucial in the game. Whoever gets it, I reckon, will go on to win, because we haven't got many goals in us. We struggle to score more than 1 goal in a game. Only game we've done that is, I think, Bristol City, where we lost 3-2, and Birmingham, we beat them 3-1. Other than that, we haven't really scored. And obviously you at the start of the season, but we haven't scored more than 1 goal in very few matches this year. So that's one concern of ours. And our defence hasn't been as tight this year. So I can see it being maybe 1-1, something like that. But I'd hope 1-0 Millwall. That's me being optimistic.
Oh, it says a lot about Rowett's style of football that you call 1-0 win as optimistic, and you're like really optimistic. That's your aspiration.
Yeah. That's what we're at.
Sean, do you have any more kind of rays of light or slightly more joy to inject in proceedings?
I'll try. I mean, obviously the positive for us is that we look like we'll have two actual central midfielders playing in central midfield, which is always a bonus. Obviously, hopefully it might be Kevin Stewart or Ethan Robson, obviously, who's been recalled from Cadon. So both of those, I think, are good potential options. We are struggling a bit, and obviously we're struggling in the transfer market. But generally, I think we've still got some really good assets in our team. We do create chances. We have played quite well before the Hartlepool game, we'd played quite well. And generally in the first half of the Hartlepool game, I thought we played quite well for a fair few games. But look, I'll go 2-1 home win. I think we'll be refreshed. There's a couple of players back in now that probably haven't had a chance for a while that will be able to sort of see this as a clean slate for them to kick on in their careers, particularly someone like Owen Dale. These sort of players have got a good chance now to make something of themselves. And if you're going to play a game against a side that you want to play, then it's going to be against a team that have got a fair few injuries to the key players. So I'll go 2-1.
Excellent. Another one goal margin here, but this time for Blackpool. Joe, where's your head at regarding Saturday's game? I see you've enlisted the help of Stanley to help.
Yeah. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, purely because we've not had many draws this season, especially at Bloomfield Road. I've been waiting ages to go to a game. I've not been to a game since Boxing Day due to either can't get down because of the Christmas trains and they're not being on New Year's Day and all that. And teams trying COVID when they've got loads of injuries and just one or two with COVID. But I'm going to get off my high horse on that one because I'm likely to get in a lot of trouble. So, I'm going to go for a draw.
Fair enough. I was looking through the comments. I can see Steve agrees with you, Sean. He thinks it's going to be a 2-1 home win. We're getting a lot of 2-0 pools from Richard and Stephen. And I think I'm going to agree with them. I always like to be optimistic on this podcast. I think we've got lots of players who've freshly signed. They're going to want a point to prove, whether it's Beasley, Dale, Bowler might try and have a great game, if he's increased his value in the shop window. I think we've got a Millwall side with a lot of injuries, a Pool side with players who want to prove a point for a variety of reasons. And for that, on that pseudo psychology alone, I'm going to say a 2-0 Blackpool win.
Don't we also have a lot of key injuries as well, though?
Yes,
just in the interest of, unbiased opinion and everything.
I had forgotten that, I tried to forget in my own mind that Keshi Anderson is not available, but thank you for reminding me, Joe. It's very kind of you.
You're welcome.
Well, I might as well just give up now then. That's really harsh for my buzz.
And David's also commented. Yeah, I know, exactly. David's also commented that the M55 shut this weekend as well, which I wasn't aware of. So that'll be a nice detour for me as well to get here. So,
is it too late to order some lateral flow tests from Liverpool got theirs,
and then redo them when you've only got one positive, which is also
exactly. Oh, all right. Well, we'll move on from that slightly depressing topic of Blackpool's injuries and the M55 being shot, and move on to hopefully the warm embrace of Nostalgia Avenue. It's time for the wonderful segment They Played for Both, whose branding I can't find at the moment, but just imagine there is a nice banner there that says They Played for Both. Kai and the new listeners, the premise of this is that we just have a look at players who've played for both Millwall and Blackpool in recent or not so recent years and reminisce about the great contributions or historic failures that they were. I'll kick us off one to start and say DJ Campbell is probably top of the list when it comes to me. He's a Blackpool hero and legend, our Premier League top scorer. And lesser known fact among Blackpool fans is probably that he was on loan at Millwall from Blackburn Rovers in 2014, and I don't believe made any much of an impact. Although Kai, you'll be able to tell us more about that.
He was dreadful. He was dreadful. And once you finish, we're talking about DJ Campbell. We've got another one. I've just thought of another one because I was thinking about him the other day. But DJ Campbell, I think it was a Holloway signing. And it was one of them ones on deadline day, I think. It was a bit of a panic buy. He thought, we need some strikers. Let's get in the striker. And I was really excited when I saw it. I was probably only about 10, saw it, and I was buzzing because I thought he's done really well at other clubs. And he comes in, and I just don't remember him doing much. I don't even know if he played that much, to be honest. I can't even remember him hardly doing anything. I think he might have scored against Palace once. I think he might go down as a hero for that. But other than that, he hasn't done that much. I didn't think he did that much for us.
That was when Holloway was getting the band back together, wasn't it? And Angel Martinez as well, who's another one I saw on your list. I liked Angel, but I didn't think he was amazing. Some people used to like worship the ground he walked on, but I didn't think he was all phenomenal. He was steady for me, but I don't know what your thoughts are. Connor, it looks like by your description you really love him.
I thought he was an okay player. He's a Spanish midfielder, so that kind of adds to the overall. You know,
like me with
he
Thiago
could have
Gomez.
actually been quite average, but because he's Spanish and a midfielder in the early kind of 2010s, I'm like, he must be brilliant. You know, that probably gives him a fair amount of halo effect. You know,
Pedro Martinez was also Spanish. Just saying.
Oh, but yeah,
I've got another Millwall player that used to play for Blackpool as well.
It's all right. I'll finish on Angel Martinez. Yeah, he was. I think we talked about he followed Holloway to Millwall pretty directly. But if you're interested in knowing more about the player, I think the guys over at UTMP did an interview with him about a month ago or so. So do check that out if you're interested. And now I will stop shameless plugging of my other podcast and give Joe the floor.
Didn't play many games for us, but he made a big impact. Danny Shittu.
Oh, what a man.
I think I say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a big Danny Shittu fan, even though his time was fleeting. He was a top defender and seemed like a really top lad as well.
Another one for me with Liam Feeney. I actually controversially put him in a team. I did a team recently because I had literally no content to go off when the game was postponed the other week of best Blackpool 11 under Simon Saddler's ownership, and I put Liam Feeney at right wing because he had that season under Grayson where he got top 5 assists in Europe, something ridiculous where he got about 16
He had more
assists
than Kevin De Bruyne did that season.
Yeah.
And out of his 17 assists, I'm guarantee that 16 of them were across which Big Armand got his head on.
Yeah. The dream team. If only we could just go back in time to watch that dire football. But Liam Feeney, to be fair, I was so frustrated watching it when it was actually there. But when you kind of look back, and that's ridiculous, regardless of the way you're playing, to get 16, 17 assists in one season is absolutely mental.
Yeah. Richard pointing out there, he got player of the season. And, you know, you heard it there. Everyone, Sean saying, Critchley out, Grayson in. Let's go back to that football. Views not necessarily those of Lancs Live. Fair enough. So, any of those names ring a bell with you, Kai? Martinez, Liam Feeney, any of them stand out as players who made an impact for Millwall, or did they all suffer when they tried to hit Millwall's level?
Liam Feeney was very good. Remember Liam Feeney well. He was very good. Danny Shittu was our Millwall fans love Danny Shittu. He's a bit like just his presence, you know. He's a lovely bloke as well. But the one player that I was thinking of, I think he played for Blackpool, and if he did, he was absolutely awful for us. I think Holloway signed him. Was Gary Taylor Fletcher?
Yeah, played for Blackpool.
God, he was awful for us. He must have been at least 3 kilos overweight.
That's part of the fun with Gary Taylor Fletcher. He's a genius because he's just some bloke from like Stoke who just turns up and starts doing like rainbow flicks in the Premier League. Like, it's just Gary Taylor Fletcher is one of the best, probably the best. Well, actually, Wes Houlihan, but probably one of the best technical players we've had since I was born. He was class. Love Gary Taylor Fletcher.
Yeah, like Gary Taylor Fletcher is revered among
a god
here.
Fans.
Yeah, exactly. Because although I was trying to say his story, he went from non-league to scoring in the playoff final that takes Blackpool to the Premier League. You know, fairly historic. And at the same time that Brett Ormerod was also doing it in terms of scoring in every step of the English Football League. So we kind of just love him because he's very relatable. And he's like, yeah, it's not too late for me. If I get down to the pub, get out the pub and onto the pitch and put a couple of, even just like 2 hours in to replicate his shape, maybe I could do it too.
Scored the first and the last goal in the Premier League for us as well, didn't he?
Yeah. I'll never forget that moment where you actually thought it was going to happen at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I think we scored a little bit too early in that game.
Just a little bit. But what a goal it was. That's one of my favourite Blackpool goals of all time. Like, just doing that at Old Trafford.
I can't believe Man United played such a strong team when they were in the Champions League final a few days later. And it brings me absolutely no joy whatsoever to see them in their current form. Absolutely no joy whatsoever. What is it, lads? Is it a green and gold scarf for your Ronaldo 150 quid t-shirt this week? Sweet.
Well, apparently they're all Preston fans anyway, according to
Oh,
Twitter.
yeah.
There are a lot of
exactly,
United fans with Preston Blackpool tickets for some reason. So we'll have to see.
God,
well,
imagine supporting both them clubs. What a sad little life.
But having reviewed they play for both, I think we've added another little bit to our transfer nuggets, which is players who weren't very good for Millwall, like Gary Taylor-Fletcher, etc. Who is the other one? DJ Campbell. Players who aren't good for Millwall are going to be good for Blackpool, so we should just sign all your bad players. Yeah. Can we still get that guy from Bolton?
He's gone. He went today. You can say we're in a free transfer. You might be able to ring him up and get him. Never know.
Hang about. Didn't we sign Chris Malkin from Millwall?
No, I'll check. Google to the rescue.
They've done, actually.
Yeah, we did in 1996.
Yeah, then to be fair, then they deserved a poor DJ Campbell and a poor Gary Taylor-Fletcher then. Revenge.
We definitely suffered, so don't worry.
275,000. Jesus. It was the record signing until 2008. Just to make you feel nice, Joe, that deal for him to join Blackpool was done 2 years before I was born.
Yeah, it was done a year after I was born. Richard expressing a sentiment here. I think we can all get behind it. Ronaldo is overrated. I agree. I think Gary Taylor-Fletcher is better than Ronaldo.
Absolutely.
I will die on that hill.
All right. Well, now, we talked a little bit about the last games between our city sides this season, that 2-1 defeat to the hands of Millwall. But now it's just quickly time to share my screen, if it works. There we go. And look at past games. Now, in terms of the head-to-head on this, it's been fairly even throughout history. Of the matches between Blackpool and Millwall, Blackpool have won 16, Millwall have won 16, and we've drawn 17. So really, whoever wins this next game can take the imaginary Blackpool-Millwall trophy that I've invented in my head, like the Ashes, the Ian Holloway Derby trophy.
Don't mention Holloway about round Millwall fans. Not keen.
Excellent. So, Kai, do any of these results spring to mind? Were you at many of them? Any of them remember?
I remember the Millwall 0 Blackpool 2 game from early August. It might have even been the first game of the season, possibly. I remember in scoring and it not going down very well at the Den. They were singing many songs about Tom and his father.
Yeah.
To be fair, most Blackpool fans would probably join in them songs now after Paul managed Blackpool into the ground along with the help of Carl Oyston. So, in retrospect, you were probably right.
Well, I think it's important now, because we've had to brush up on our legal knowledge and the accuracy of things. I want to put managed in quotation marks there. So I certainly don't want to over-represent what Ince did.
I was going to say the home game from, I think, that same season, Delfonso scored a late winner in the 2-1 game. I remember that one. That was sort of Just a really good side we had there, to be fair. I think Delfonso came off the bench, and no doubt. I mean, he's probably still touring Bloomfield Road now, clapping all 4 stands after his late winner. A player I cannot stand watching, but he was pretty decent that season, to be fair.
Excellent. And Kai, sorry, we really got across you. Any games stick out to you?
The one that sticks out to me, that I think favourite one, was the 3-1 Millwall win, 2017 to September 2013. If I remember rightly, I think you were unbeaten up until that point. I remember it came down to the Den, and it was I think we were on a poor run. I think we had Lomas in charge. And I think we won 3-1. Trotter scored. I think Morrison might have scored, and it was just a good day, just a good evening. I think it was a night game. And one of them games you turn up expecting to get tonked, and you walk away not quite sure how you've won. So yeah, it was a nice surprise.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's always good you can get a decent result in a night game. Otherwise, just a very, very depressing trudge home in the dark. I'm aware, Kai, we've taken you for more than the 30 minutes promised, but it is an absolute pleasure to have you on the pod. We're going to kick off now and do some Blackpool team selection stuff where we'll basically just argue about who should and shouldn't be in the squad. You're more than welcome to stay on for that if you'd like, but it will be quite Blackpool technical from now on.
No, I wouldn't want to steal any of the tactics, so.
Good man. Honour isn't dead. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
No worries.
It's been great having you, and not best of luck for Saturday, but best of luck for the season, Saturday onwards.
Thank you very much. You guys, you too. Thank you very much for having me.
No worries. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right. And then I will figure out how to switch my screen instantly over to the lineup predictor, because it is that time of the pod where we decide who should and shouldn't be playing. We lovingly come to unanimous consensus on who our best lineup is. We send it out into the world where it crossbox joy, love, world peace, and all of that. Gary Medine, the love machine. I'll give Joe first pick. Actually, no, before I give anybody first pick, Sean, would you do the honours of running through team news?
Yes. So obviously, Keshi Anderson and James Husband are out for a fair while. Keshi Anderson's injury is worse than James Husband's. I think they're a bit tentative to put a timescale on that, just purely because until the kind of initial recovery stage is done, you can't really tell how long it's going to take. But they're sort of different grades, aren't they? And Keshi's is a higher grade. Kevin Stewart's been in training. Obviously, he was potentially in contention for the Barnsley match, so he'll definitely be in contention for this one. Critchley was sort of saying about how he's built up a lot of confidence and that it's quite a mental thing for him at the moment in terms of his ankle, and he's quite wary and tentative on it because he's worried about, obviously, the recurrence of this injury that keeps seeming to happen. So he has been a bit wary about it, but he's sort of built up his confidence quite a bit in the past week of training. So whether he starts, I'm not sure, but I think they'll probably try and gradually ease him in as much as we do desperately need bodies in central midfield. Ethan Robson, obviously back from his MK Dons loan spell. He's in contention to start as well. Chris Maxwell's been doing some light running with his recovery, but he's a long, long way off. And to be honest, I don't think he'd get in the side anyway now when he comes back anyway. And just finally, an interesting one on... Oh, sorry, go on.
He's a goalkeeper. It's like light running is generally what he needs to do.
Yeah, just getting back in right now. That's the thing. I think him and the club probably rushed it a little bit first time round, but now there's less of that burden on their shoulders, I guess, with how consistently well Grimshaw's played. And just a final one on Sonny Carey. Obviously, he was due to go for an operation on his metatarsal. He got COVID, so that operation got cancelled. And now once the COVID recovery's happened, as a temporary precaution, all the clubs go through heart scans and heart monitoring and all these different things. So he's still to go for them before he's actually sort of able to go back out, if that makes sense. And then once that happens, they'll make a decision, because at his age and because of the time it's already taken with his recovery, that bone can heal by itself, and they may just end up just letting it heal naturally rather than making a decision to go to surgery. So that's still to be made. But obviously, I can't see him playing again this season. And Matty Virtue is stepping it up, and Grant Ward, I think Tangerine TV showed he's a fair bit away still as well.
Excellent. So, positive news, at least midfield reinforcements are coming in. Obviously, the goalkeeper's probably going to pick itself now. So I'm just going to put Grimshaw in the box, given that Maxwell is a long way off. Which means our first real choice of the evening is going to go to Joe. Who do you think centre-back number 1 should be?
Big Marv. It's got to be current club captain Marvin Ekpiteta. Like you say, he had a bit of a rare off day at Hartlepool, but I wouldn't hesitate giving him the armband and playing him at centre-back. I think he's come on leaps and bounds since we've signed him. He's managed to step up every division from non-league to championship seamlessly. Like you say, odd mistake, but I think he's easily, for me, the first name on the team sheet at the minute.
All right. We've got Steve pointing out that Jordan Thornley is yet to come, is due to come back. Sean, is he aware that Jordan Thornley is actually a football player and not just an asset in the transfer market? Why are the chances of him starting next to 0, do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because obviously we'll read into it in various different ways. Why what's happened has happened. Because I could read it a few different ways. There's still question marks over Daniel Grettison's future at the club, and Jordan Thornley would be a perfect replacement for him, like for like, really, in terms of a rotation option. And obviously because of the Brannigan deal breaking down, then we've kind of thrown our toys out of the pram, I guess, and looking to recall him. I don't know. I wouldn't want to put a reason on why it's happening. I'm not particularly impressed with the way that everything's happened, really. And I think at the end of the day, he's had a really successful first half of the season, and it will benefit him to continue playing games, whether that's with us or with Oxford or with someone else. And I'm sure that there would probably be suitors in the market for a permanent deal if we do bring him back now, who will pay the money that we're asking for. So it could go one or two ways, but I can't see him in the squad. And obviously it's not been officially announced anyway that he's coming back, so we'll see on that one. Oxford are still pushing to try and keep him, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay. So who would be your second centre-back if not Jordan Thornley?
Richard Keogh. I'd probably swap them over. I always like having Keogh on the left and Ekpiteta on the right. Keogh's just, that partnership's been really good for me. I think generally the defence has probably been a little bit more shaky in recent weeks than it has been sort of over the past couple of months before that. But that's your partnership to go to. You want some solidity in there when there's options dropping out left, right, and centre in other positions. Excellent.
So that's our centre of defence set with the dynamic duo. Joe, with a Jimmy Husband out, we've lost a world-class player at left-back who, if we start at left-back every game, will take us to the Champions League final. Huge loss. Who do you think is best able to step up to the plate and try and get closest to replacing him?
Well, at the minute, it's Luke Garbett because he's the only fit available left-back at the club. So, there you go.
There you go. What a vote of confidence in Luke. Sean, do we still have options at right back? Jordan Gabriel can come back, right?
Yes. So we've got the options. Obviously, Sterling's recall options expired now, I believe. So he's definitely staying unless Chelsea, like all of their players, just decide to leave the club at once. So Jordan Gabriel definitely right back. And I think with Garbett as well, it's like I was saying before at the start of the podcast about clean slates. I think that's a good opportunity now for Garbett to have a clean slate, have a good run of games. And if it doesn't work in these next run of games, then we know that he's not to the plate. But if he does, then we've got a really good set of competition for places at left back and right back.
Excellent. I'm trying to think who else can play at left back if we need them to. Have we tried Callum Connolly there yet?
I mean, I'm sure we will at some point. Poor guy.
Well, we've got Garber at left back. That does open the possibility of him playing in midfield. Despite that, and despite my love of putting very eclectic player picks in there, I think it's got to be Kenny Dougal as our first central midfielder. Steve in the comments very much agreeing with you, Sean, that Gabriel's got to be the one at right back. Joe, who would your other central midfield partner be?
If he's fit enough, Kevin Stewart. If not, Ethan Robson, by all accounts, has been playing well and regularly at MK Dons, so match fitness shouldn't be an issue. Obviously, it's a step up in division, but I'd much rather have somebody whose natural position is in the centre of midfield than sticking a centre back there. So, yeah, definitely Stewart first choice, and if he isn't quite ready enough to start, throw Ethan Robson straight in there.
Yeah, I do have this sort of suspicion that perhaps we'll do 60 minutes Robson, 30 minutes Stewart, but it has to be Stewart. Like I said, I feel like people forget because he's injured all the time. Kevin Stewart's a quality central midfielder in the Championship. He was in that Fulham game in particular. Him and Wintle, that was the partnership that at that stage, and I think even now, if we had Wintle, I would probably be dropping Dougal out of the three of them at their peak. So, yeah, he's a quality midfielder, and I love watching him play. He's very calm and composed on the ball, and he really sets the tone. So you want someone who's brave on the ball like that. So hopefully we get more game time out of him going forward.
No, I completely agree, Sean. He's an excellent player. You've seen it in many games. I can't wait to see him back out there on the pitch, just dictating that play in the middle. And I look forward to giving him a standing ovation when he leaves around the 30-minute mark. David Coleman pointing out rightfully in the comments that Demi Mitchell could play left back. Obviously, that's where he played for the United Academy and where he was initially not very good for us, shall we say.
Yeah, not very good for us in League One. So
yeah.
I'd be very hesitant to play him there in the Championship. But yeah, David is right, though. You could play him at left back.
David is right.
Lots of things could happen, yes.
Maybe it'd be an option, but I have a suspicion he might be taken for that left midfield spot to replace Keshi Anderson.
I have a brave. I have a. Oh,
go on, Sean.
No,
I'll let for it. Actually, let me go first because Joe will react. I think we're playing a side that've got a lot of injuries. We have a lot of players out. He's had a lot to deal with in his loan spell. He's had a few setbacks. He's now joined on a permanent deal. I'm not particularly keen on him in a 4-4-2, but who the hell knows? I think we should play Dale left mid and see how it goes because I think we know what we're getting with Mitchell. I think Dale's still not had enough game time to really show us what he's capable of. Whether he is crap or whether he's good, we can't really say because he's had 4 starts for us. So I think that if you've got to give him a run of games now, we've signed him on a permanent deal. I think that why have you paid your money if you don't? So I think it has to be Dale. And as I say, I think Mitchell's kind of shown us what his worth is now. And I can't see Mitchell being a long-term option on either flank, to be honest. So Dale for me.
Lots of agreement in the comments there. We were promised a Joe reaction. Are we going to get it?
No, I agree with the current injuries that we've got. You've got very few options, and like Sean says, we've signed the guy now, so we've obviously shown a bit of faith in him. Well, Neil Critchley's shown a bit of faith in him, and yeah, we've got a run of games now where we're going to be very limited with wide options. He is an option. Let's see what he's got. Let's see if he can impress.
Yeah. I think the point we're limited at wide options there is really key because I think with the exception of Keshi, nearly all of our wide options can be categorized by that video of the Italian coach going, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, with no in between. I think that's applied to Owen Dale. And I think that's probably also a fair description of who I assume is going to be a unanimous pick at right mid, Josh Bowler.
Yeah.
Okay. The variable Mr. Bowler slotting in at right mid. And
I mean, he played very well in the first game at home. He played that really beautifully weighted pass through, didn't he, for that Lavery opener? So if there's going to be, I don't think they're the paciest, most athletic side in the world. So I think Bowler would probably have a good game, to be honest, on Saturday.
Excellent. And he'll be feeding into potentially new strike partners as well, obviously with the signing of Jake Beasley, whose chance of a debut at Barnsley was taken away, but now he gets a home debut in front of the fans, which is, I'm sure, a lovely moment for him. Will he get that chance, do you think, Sean, or will he be dropped down for Yates and Medine, or Lavery and Medine?
I think it'll be Yates and Medine, and I think I would pick Yates and Medine. I think Medine's probably, for me, I know obviously people have said he's been good for a long time. I've not really seen it, but I think in recent games, he's offered something different to what he has been doing. I think we were too one-dimensional and too lazy going through Medine at times earlier in the season, whereas now there's kind of a purpose to doing it, and it's more variable the way that we play through Medine now. And there's a bit more of a sort of a link up. He holds the ball up and then plays sort of 1-2 passes in and around the edge of the area and things like that. So at the moment, I think it would be harsh to drop Medine. And I think that Yates needs a run of games now because I think he is our best striker. I think he'll prove himself to be our best striker in the second half of the season. He's more, like I was saying before, more variety to his game. I think he's the more varied of all of the strikers. Obviously, Lavery's come back and he's not quite hit the heights that he did before. But again, I think he's bound to probably hit heights. But I think he'll work well off the bench against tired legs. And it's a good chance for him to sort of do that sort of thing. So I think Yates and Medine for me are the correct options. But I am really excited to see Jake Beasley. I've watched a fair bit of him now. And I think he's going to be a really good signing. I think he looks exactly the sort of player from that market that we should be picking up. And I can see him ending up naturally sort of fitting his way into the side longer term.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the idea of him being like Gary Medine, but also able to run and press.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. But I think also, I know what you mean around Medine. As a fellow, traditional Medine hater in the pod, I just didn't see what he added to our squad initially in the season. He felt so kind of counter against what we were trying to do. Like he just looked very out of place. And these last couple of games, more and more, he's felt actually very central to what we're trying to do and very key in terms of getting the ball off to the wide players by laying it off to them. And I've kind of it's like the team has warped around Gary, the team has molded itself to fit around Gary. It's like Gary exerts this gravitational field that's just pulled everything into shape around him, such as his mass and power. Gary Gravity. Now I'm actually quite excited when I see his name on the team sheet. Although
yeah, I'm the same.
I certainly won't give Mitch the satisfaction of saying it to his face. All right. And then finally, we've had a question from David here in the comments saying, what's going to happen with CJ? I was disappointed by CJ's performance against low league opposition Hartlepool. Joe, were you also disappointed?
That's a word, yeah. Let's be honest, you can't just throw CJ under the bus. Everybody was poor against Hartlepool. If you're going to have a go at anyone, I mean, you can have a go at, Sterling. I thought he was at fault for the first and possibly the second as well. I thought we were awful defensively that day. But yeah, CJ missed a couple of sitters. Guess what? So did Shane Lavery. Are we having a go at him? No. It was just one of them days at the office. And to be honest, regarding the result, I'm not too bothered. I'm more bothered about the injuries than going out the cup. Because let's face it, as much as you probably won't want to admit it, we weren't going to win the FA Cup this season. Sorry to break it to you all. But, yeah, CJ had a bad game. Maybe he's a bit rusty because he's not played in a while. I don't know. But I can't see us selling him in the window if that's what you're getting at.
I don't think they'd be
I'm not
takers.
suggesting we'll sell him. I don't think anyone will take him. I worry that his game relies a lot on pace and kind of being in space, and I'm not sure that's translated
I've said it
to the
before.
Championship.
I've said it before on the podcast. He's literally the Forrest Gump of Blackpool FC. We just need, like, whatever end we're attacking at, we just need to get a big banner that says stop, when he's running.
I would
So
personally
just
say
run off the end of the pitch.
what people say about Liam Feeney now, I think they'll be saying about CJ Hamilton in a couple of years' time. Personally, I think that the limitations to his game, see him, there's so much he has to add to his game to step up to Championship level for me. I don't know. I think he's clearly a very good athlete and he understands the game, but generally, technically, consistently stepping up to this level, I really can't see it.
All right, so he's likely in Feeney. I'm going to bookmark my calendar now for 20th of Jan, 2024, 2025, when Sean includes him in, kind of
the
best Blackpool exile of the Critchley.
Yeah, quite right.
I want it to work for him. I think, like Sean says, it's definitely
he's exciting. He's excited to when he comes on. You're like, oh, CJ. Every time you see him warming up on the side, you're like, oh, CJ. It's like he could do it this time, and it's like until he, like Steve said, like you do have to cut him some slack because he's not had much game time. I say the same about Dale. So then unless he's has 10 starts or what have you to go off, then you can't really say from the signs you've seen thus far, he kind of just looks like an array of the wingers we're trying to now move on from because we have so many. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think that his role at the club now is probably, with all the injuries that we've got, especially to them wide positions, is probably a player you bring on for the last 20, 15 minutes to run at tired defences.
Yeah.
Whether anything comes from them runs is...
and then sky the cross.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, I mean, I think he's a useful player to have around the squad on the bench. But for me, he's nowhere near good enough to be starting in the Championship.
All right.
And I hope he proves me wrong.
I think we all hope that. And I think the CJ revisionism has already started. We've got Steve and Chris in the comments. Steve saying he was the most lively player in the second half against Hartlepool. And Chris saying he put in a couple
against
of
Hartlepool.
Yeah, no, but what's lively?
Crosses which Lavery missed. Well,
can I say something about lively? Can I say something about lively? I hate lively players. When there's a lively player, it means they haven't done anything of note, but they ran fast a lot. That's what it means. That is what lively player means in any context. That Bowler, when he wasn't playing well, was a lively player, and that's why we had to keep playing him. So hopefully CJ does a similar thing. But lively player to me is always like, it's just a guy that runs fast. Marvin might have a really good game, but he's not a lively player. He's just like, he's calm and composed. He doesn't need to be lively because he knows what he's doing. I don't know. Start going off tangent here. But I just see that word and it never means a player's good.
No, it's always like, this player could be good.
Yeah.
It's always about, anticipated end product rather than any actual end product on the pitch.
So when we're reading your Lancashire Live reports, and if we said look lively
performance
or solid,
that's
another one, isn't it? Solid.
Yeah. Both of those means we're actually shite.
All right, well, we'll look out for that. We'll hope it'll be a actual quality performance on Saturday by Blackpool rather than one where they just look lively. For Sean's blood pressure, for no other reason. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening to the preview show. We'll, of course, send this squad out on socials for it to receive all the love and attention it normally gets in the wider world. In the meantime, we hope you all have a great day on Saturday. Hope you're able to get there with the M55 closed. And up the pool.
On the pool.
The pool.